where we can all participate rather than a session to make speeches. But just allow me to say a few things. One, we appreciate the place of the EU in the relationship we have with partners. The EU, as has been said here, is the largest trading partner of Kenya. That's not a small thing. We value that status, and therefore engagement with our largest trading partner is important to us as Kenya Kwanza and as Kenyans. Number two, you are our second largest market. Again, that is very important to us, even in our focus on the economy. Market is a big thing. Is an engagement in the right direction. And then number three, the EU is also the second largest development partner for Kenya outside the World Bank. Therefore, again, that places the EU in a very from Kenya Kwanza, you wouldn't experience a major shift in our relationship because I have been part and parcel of the administration that is outgoing. Engagements that we've had, the new that now gives us a framework for the relationship going all the way to 2027, that became necessary because of the strategic nature of our delegation, the position of Kenya in this. We will seek to step up, conclude I know there's still you, conclude that relationship. We know there are little outstanding issues. We will work with you to make sure that is concluded, and especially in the context of so that gives us, I think it's a development in the right direction. Kenya will also be looking at opportunities, of course, provided for by the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. Again, we can build synergy between Kenya and the EU to see how our relationship, our strategic relationship, can leverage also on the market and all the other opportunities that come with the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. We will have a discussion, hopefully, about what we can do more. As Kenya Kwanza, we will be looking at opportunities on what we can export more to the EU. We know that you are interested in having a balanced relationship. And sometimes it's our fault that we do not push hard enough to access markets that are available to us. I want to promise you that as an administration or as a team, we will work towards seeing what other opportunities in textile products, in leather products, in where Kenya has competitive advantage, what we can do more in processing, agro-processing, value addition. I was speaking to one of our manufacturers yesterday, not manufacturers, our enterprises in Mombasa, who is now packing the Lipton tea in Mombasa. And those are the strategic relationships we will be looking at. We still export our tea largely in bulk. We will want to look at what we can do with the EU, because that single entity in Mombasa, and I promised to visit, employs 1,000 Kenyans. We are hardly value adding 5% of our tea. Kenya Kwanza would want to see whether we can push that to 20, 30, possibly 50%. I had also, just to mention, I had an occasion. I met the Indian community in Nairobi. And one of them gave us, and the members of this team were there, gave us an incident where he was in Egypt. And they were served very nice tea. So when he was leaving, you remember he said, this is very nice tea. So he ordered several packets of the tea because he wanted to come and enjoy the tea in Kenya. So when he arrived in Nairobi and he told his wife, please, I got some tea from Egypt. We enjoyed it, it was very nice. So when his wife opened, there was like a small label there, said, manufactured in Kenya. And he had gone all the way to Egypt to buy. So this is what we are saying, that there is more we can do here, and yet the tea was just packed in Egypt. So those are the opportunities we will be looking at to explore between us and you. We are looking at working with you on our regional security. Kenya, sitting in the Security Council, is a very pivotal place. But you all know we live in a very slippery neighborhood because of terrorism and the whole challenge around insecurity. We will work with you to see what we can do more with IGAD, with ICGLR, and see what we can do in Somalia, in Sudan, South Sudan, and even Ethiopia, because we want to live in a safe neighborhood. It is undermining our growth as a country. We will also want to work with you because the issue of climate change is beginning to hurt us. For 3 years consecutive, we haven't had consistent rains. This year, we're just crossing our fingers because we have a challenge even as we talk. So again, these are areas where we will want to work together to see whether what we can do more, what we can do better, to see how we can mitigate that. We are also keen as a team on making sure that this election is free, fair, and democratic. We are very clear that as we go into this election, first, we believe as the Kenya Kwanza team that the way to the future is to complete the implementation of the 2010 Constitution, not to amend it. We don't believe that mutilating the Constitution before its full implementation is the way to go. We believe that we should operationalize all the institutions already provided in the 2010 Constitution. We believe, for example, that we should operationalize the judiciary fund and make the judiciary that much more independent and efficient. That's very critical to us. We believe that the criminal justice operators should have financial autonomy. as it is today, though the Constitution says the Inspector General of Police should have financial autonomy, it does not have. It is still subject to the office of the President. And we all know the old saying that he who pays the piper calls the tune. The Kenya Kwanza government, God willing, we should be able to operationalize such institutions, give financial autonomy where one is necessary, and we believe it is, so that we can realize the full potential of the 2010 Constitution and be able to use it as a thrust to move the country into the future. We are also very keen on ensuring that the big subject of gender is addressed as we go into the future. As a team, first we have undertaken that though the Constitution says 30% of all positions, elective and appointive, must go to women, for a start, we want to start with 50% of our cabinet to be women. And we want to progress that. We want to progress that and see how we can realize the 2/3 gender rule within our first year, by God's grace, in government. As things stand today, Kenya Kwanza has the largest number of women candidates compared to all our competitors. In fact, out of the 9 governor candidates, 7 are Kenya Kwanza. And we believe out of the 7 candidates, we are more or less almost sure that 5 will be elected as governors. And we are working towards it. Because we do not want to pay lip service or play tokenism to the issue of gender, because we know its significance and we know the contribution our whole society can give. The question of integrity is of very high premium and significance to Kenya Kwanza. The fight against corruption is a fight that we must not only engage in, but we must win. It's the only way to the future. And I agree, for example, with the statements made by my boss yesterday, that corruption can be a big impediment to the development of a nation. We believe as Kenya Kwanza that the fight against corruption must be institutionalized and not personalized. It must be a fight against criminals from all shades. It must not be weaponized against your political opponents and the people you don't like, while protecting the corrupt who are your political allies, friends, or members of your family. We are very clear in our minds that institutionalizing the fight against corruption is building the capacities of the criminal justice system. And we are very clear as Kenya Kwanza that we need a financially independent judiciary. That's why We will operationalize the judiciary fund that will give resources to the judiciary to access software, hardware, human capital. As we talk, there is a huge gap of judges and magistrates that needs to be hired to expedite cases that now take anywhere between 5 and 15 years. You remember there was a case that was decided after 17 years by Kidongo the other day. And it is said justice delayed is justice denied. So our firm position as Kenya Kwanza is that the failure to fight corruption is when you undermine the institutions, the criminal justice system, by restricting their financial autonomy and by weaponizing the fight against corruption to be a fight against your political competitors. That is how, for example, the COVID billionaires escaped, because they were friends of the people who say they want to fight corruption. If the fight against corruption was left to the institutions, the COVID billionaires would be behind bars by now. And that's precisely what we are saying. We have taken the position that that fight should go all the way, and we should remove all opaque areas of procurement. We believe, for example, there must be a mechanism that ensures that Kenyans get value for money, even in procurement of some items classified as secret, confidential, security, that kind of thing. A lot is stolen under the cover of secrecy, security, confidentiality. That's how the public loses money. We also believe, as Kenya Kwanza, as I conclude, that multilateralism, quite mouthful there, and a peaceful resolution of issues is the way to go. I think the case in Ukraine is becoming increasingly clear that it's no longer possible for any part of the world to bury their heads in the sand when a situation like that occurs, because we all find ourselves, one way or another, affected. And therefore, we must continue to build alliances to deal with global challenges like the one that come with threats like the one we've seen in Ukraine. Finally, and let me just, Professor David Ndii is a very knowledgeable economist, but I am a scientist myself, and therefore I'm not as complicated as David Ndii. Science is very straightforward. So let me just try and paraphrase what he was trying to say. We have a 10-point plan as Kenya Kwanza, ably elaborated by our good friend David Ndii. And I want to thank members of our economic team, the representatives who are here. We have a bigger team than you have seen. David Ndii is a renowned economist. Our good brother, Professor Njuguna Ndung'u, you know, he was our governor of the central bank. In fact, I can say without fear of any contradiction that it is the boldness and the creativity of Professor Ndung'u that gave us the M-Pesa. No other governor would have allowed the licensing of that instrument, because many people never believed in the risk that came with M-Pesa. But because of his boldness and creativity, I must say, in fact, when he licensed M-Pesa, many people were wondering whether he had made the right decision. But today, M-Pesa is a phenomenon associated with the whole digital financial space. So again, that is the gentleman behind that initiative, and he's brought a lot of insight into our economic team. Bottom versus up. It's not bottom versus up, it's bottom up. And from where I sit as a leader in Kenya, there are 3, 4, 5 issues that we must sort out. I'm happy His Excellency the President enumerated the 6 or 7 big push areas that we started with in 2013, from the construction of the railway to the development of roads around the country, the 10,000, which has become 11,000, the electricity connections, matters to do with NHIF. But what did not come out is the big 4, because the handshake completely annihilated the big 4. That's why there was no mention of the big 4 yesterday. Much as there was an attempt to explain that the handshake maybe helped finalize our first-term plan, but the handshake completely undermined our big 4. And it was a very well thought out plan. And we have crafted a new plan to take into account some of the things that were never implemented because of the confusion that arose because of the handshake stories. One of them is the huge challenge that we have as a country of the youth bulge and unemployment. Our own statistics show that we have between 4 and 5 million Kenyans who have no jobs, educated, certificates, diplomas, degrees. And the Kenya Kwanza team wants to be practical, pragmatic, and deliberate. Practical, pragmatic, and deliberate about creating jobs. It's not enough for us to continue to say we will grow the economy and the economy possibly could grow jobs. No. We want to be deliberate about creating jobs. And our investment going into the future is in labor-intensive infrastructure. We are going to be deliberate about investing in areas that will create jobs. Let me give you an example. We invested in a gun assembly factory in Ruto. We spent 4 billion Kenya shillings. Good piece of investment, but we created 100 jobs. If we had put that 4 billion shillings in the EPZ, we would have created 5,000 jobs. Same amount of money in our apparel manufacture in the river, which we already have a market which we can satisfy. If we had done the same in low-cost housing, it would be a different story. So we are going to be deliberate. Which are the areas we're going to look at? And that's why it's important for the EU to know. We are going to we're going to look at the space of the challenge we have with housing. We have 6 million Kenyans living in slums, informal settlements. We have 35,000 Kenyans paying mortgage. Our economy can support a 2 million mortgage industry. But we are not building houses that Kenyans can afford. So we will be looking at the subject of housing, one, to sort out the housing challenges that we have, but more importantly, to create jobs. What we all need is just an off-take plan, which we have already thought about it, and we are going to work with you on how that can come into place. We will be looking at the whole space, as I told you, on agro-processing and value addition. The primary reason why we drove the standard gauge railway to Naivasha is because we wanted to create an industrial park using the steam we have, using the energy we are generating using the geothermal in Naivasha, and along the entirety of that chain, how we can take it back to growing cotton. We are already growing quite a bit of it. We want to expand on BT cotton. We want to see the whole textile industry. We want to see what we can do with the whole of the leather industry. Today, we slaughter about 3 million cows every year in Kenya, but 60–70% of our hides and skin go to waste. It is actually burnt, sometimes buried, sometimes dogs eat. We were on Gachagua, we were in Kajiado on Friday. When was that? On Monday. And the pastoralists in Kajiado were telling us these skins, they are a menace because we have to bury them. And yet we import 22 million pairs of shoes every year into the country. So that's a big place for us to create jobs. Even if we start with the 10 million kids who go to school, and we purpose that we are going to manufacture shoes for our school-going kids, we will create 500,000 jobs, save on so much money we are spending to import shoes, and manufacture them locally. So, and we already have the cows. We're already slaughtering the cows. We have the hides and skins. They are going to waste. And that's really things that are readily available to us. We'll create jobs. We'll create wealth. The other one issue that, the second issue we want to address ourselves to is the issue of access to credit. Access to credit is a very big challenge in our great country. Let me just give you a bit of statistic there. I went to a market here in Kiserian, and on average, they pay 10% per day for the credit they access, 10% per day. That's the average. So that's about 3,600% per year. And these are people who make 200, 300 shillings on a good day from selling whatever they are selling. If we just sorted out credit for them, we can actually double their incomes just by sorting out credit. making sure that they have access to credit. And instruments are available that we can use to make credit accessible to these micro and small enterprises. We are talking about 15 million people in that space. 15 million from government statistics. And these are people who are struggling. And it's growing. We inject about 1 million, just slightly under 1 million people into the job market every year. 50,000 are employed by the corporate world, another 150,000 employed by the larger SMEs, and then between 700 and 800,000 join the lottery. You know, place where they don't know what will happen. You know, guesswork. And that's so this lottery is what keeps on increasing. The 15 million who do odd jobs. You know, sell this today, sell that tomorrow. That's the place we really need to pay attention as we look into how to improve what we now call the Juakali, that employs about 3.5 million Kenyans. See how we can grow that, see how we can provide more skills. And that's why I am a very strong believer in Tibet, how we can bring more skills into that space of the Juakali and make it a real manufacturing space. So access to credit, skilling that area, focusing on wood products that we can absorb, textile, leather, that whole space. That will be our big push. We believe that in that space, we will not only create jobs, but we will create wealth. You know, we will create wealth. We need, even as we focus in investing in big infrastructure, we must focus in areas that create jobs and put money in people's pockets. That's really important. And then, of course, finally, I've said finally now 3 times. I think I'll say it one more time and then I'm done. Agricultural productivity is going to be a big area for us. When I say agricultural productivity, I mean, for example, our farmers today, maize farmers, produce 5-6 bags, maybe 10 an acre. We can push that to 20. The same farmer, same farm, we can do 20 and or 15 for that matter. Just by making sure that we get the correct seeds, we make sure that they have access to quality, affordable fertilizer, and just a bit of management and removing the cartels and the brokers from the market, you know, making sure that the market is cleaned up. Example, we are the largest producer of milk. I think in this continent, we produce about 5 billion liters of milk. But on average, we are actually producing between 1, maybe maximum 3 or 4 kilos per cow. In fact, in Kajiado, that lady said they were producing what? 2. 1.5, between 1.5 and 2. Actually, if we just improved on animal feed, and we are importing now, the big people are importing animal feed. I was saying we produce 5 billion liters. We can actually double our production of milk without much effort. Same cow, same farmer, just making sure that they have access to animal feed. Animal feed. So, and we have already discussed with farmers when we had the economic discussion in Kakamega and Bungoma. These are farmers who are saying, give us an opportunity to produce soya, to produce simsim. We will make much more money from that than from cane, and you will get the raw materials to do your animal feed. So this is the space we are looking at. And if we can improve our cow producing 2 liters and make it produce 5 liters, we will double our production of milk. And even if we sold it at the lowest price, we can make another 150 billion shillings into our foreign exchange earnings. Instead of, I'm happy we are not, instead of many of our neighbors in DRC importing milk from Australia, I think from Kenya is much more near. We can take the milk there and all the other places. So this is what I wanted finally to say, and ND has said clearly that we are going to work on universal health. Universal health is going to be a very big push for us. We believe that it's doable, and if we can structure it, we can get it done. We are looking at working with you on finally the space on investing in climate, seeing what we can do in that space of climate, especially that it affects our agriculture, which contributes significantly to our GDP. I know I have spoken longer than I should, but I thought it is important. In the community I come from, they say, if you want to fight with somebody, you don't tell them, let's look for a good place to fight. Where you meet them, you square it out. So maybe we have been looking for an opportunity to share this with you. Maybe this was not the correct moment. But since we found it anyway, we decided. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Excellency. We're running a little behind schedule, so I'm going to toss this ball back to your court, Ambassador Geiger, and I'll now invite yourself and your team to respond to the submission by His Excellency the Deputy President, but also just generally raise any issues. And from our side, we will make responses led by our Deputy President Designate, Honorable Rigathi Gachagua, Honorable Musalia Mudavadi, Governor Waiguru, Honorable Moses Wetangula, Honorable Moses Kuria, and yes.